The knob clicks. The wind slides across the floorboards of our small house in Dayton. My son Daniel sets a suitcase down and will not meet my eyes. He says it like a warning dressed as care. "Mom, do not check the bank." Then he is already halfway down the steps, already looking for air somewhere else. The kitchen waits. My kettle sits on the stove. The wall clock keeps time with the stubborn calm of a metronome that has never learned panic. I unlock my phone. The banking app opens. Numbers that once looked like safety now look like a dare. $12.00, a lifetime of careful margins reduced to a decimal that rattles in the cup. I swipe to Evan's college fund. The balance is gone. The annotation field shows lines I did not write. My own name appears on a loan application I never touched. The floor goes rigid. My palms feel cold. The kettle begins to whisper, like someone afraid to speak aloud. I do not break. I sit. The dining table has held holiday roasts and late tuition checks. It holds me now. The clock ticks. The house listens. The latch lifts again. My grandson steps inside with the steady walk of someone who has carried news before. Evan is 16, all quiet edges, captain of a small cyber club at his public high school, a boy who says please when he is angry because he was raised by women who believed in manners as a kind of armor. He sets a sealed envelope on the table. He lays out a folded map. U.S. Route 40 cuts across the page like a blue vein. His pen draws a red circle around a small square labeled Room 12. He told me not to check the bank. He drained the college fund and even used my name until my grandson mapped the money and circled Room 12 at a roadside motel. Evan looks at me. His voice holds. "Grandma, do not panic. I built the proof." If this opening feels uncomfortably familiar, if you want more true heart stories where families confront harm with dignity and law, please like this video, subscribe for Grandma Life Stories, and tell me in the comments which detail hit hardest. I rest my hand on the envelope. The seal is crisp. The paper is cool. Evan moves the kettle before it shouts. Steam rises. Mint leaves bloom in the mug. He does not push. He waits for my breath to even out. I break the seal. A stack of printouts slides into the light. Each page carries a timestamp. Many carry a purple rectangle that reads, "Received." The stamp is not decoration. It is a promise that someone beyond our front door has seen us and signed their name to the seeing. Before I turn the next page, I look straight ahead, as if a camera lens were lifted in the doorway. Here is what we will and will not do, and here is how we will say it for anyone who needs clarity. We use only records that I have a legal right to access, statements mailed to my address, alerts sent to my email, logs from accounts I own, and documents provided by our bank. Everything is preserved with timestamps. Everything important bears a received stamp from the proper office. We move through official channels. We honor the chain of custody. We choose the law over improvisation. Evan slides the map closer. "This is not about being clever," he says. "It is about being careful." The pen taps the red circle once, twice. Blue Lantern Motel sits 3 turns off Route 40, gas station across the lot. The lobby door sticks on rainy nights. If Daniel calls again, keep him talking. We do not chase. We listen. We log. I nod. I am a retired librarian. My bones know how to shelve chaos. Evan lays out the first set of steps like index cards. Federal Trade Commission Identity Theft Affidavit. Confirmation with a case number, printed, time-stamped. Internet Crime Complaint Center. Submission, acknowledgement email, header intact. Appointment with Tri-County Credit Union Fraud Team. My name is on the morning docket. They will freeze new activity. They will alert the bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. We will ask to meet Detective Mara Collins, County Financial Crimes, then District Attorney Priya for any orders or warrants that follow. No shortcuts, no theory dressed as proof. I open the banking app a second time. The 12 still sits there. Quiet. Obscene. I think of the dish soap under the sink for $2.19. I think of my husband's photograph in its wood frame at Carillon Park all those years ago. I think of the way grief turns careful people into accountants of air. The kettle breathes, the clock makes no apology for its rhythm. Daniel calls. The screen lights my face. The name tastes like metal. Evan holds up a card. 4 words in dark ink. Keep him talking, please. I lift the phone. I press the green circle. I say hello with the voice I use for storm warnings. Daniel starts with familiar music. Markets are cruel. This is a loan. I need a few days. I ask what he ate, whether the motel has an ice bucket, whether the lobby coffee is drinkable. He gives me small truths because they feel harmless. Blue Lantern, an exit near the old bridge. Room 12. Evan writes, the pen circles, the plan breathes. We hang up. The house does not feel empty. It holds a route, a circle, a boy who will not be made helpless, a grandmother who will not carry shame that is not hers. I slide the map back into the envelope. I stack the pages. The stamps line up like small square lanterns. Evan sets his palm on the table beside mine, not touching, close enough to count as company. For anyone listening, for anyone who needs courage tonight, understand the line we draw. We will not trespass. We will not touch what is not ours. We will not play hero. We will document. We will notify. We will build a case that belongs in a courtroom, not a rumor mill. We will use time. We will let it work like a slow and honest blade. The kettle quiets. The light over the sink warms the map. U.S. Route 40 glows a little under the paper's shine. I turn off the porch light. I check the lock twice. I place the envelope in the drawer where we keep birthday candles and warranties. The wall clock ticks on, a faithful percussion. Somewhere on a roadside, room 12 waits like a closed fist. In this house, we open our hands, we hold paper, we pour tea, we tell the truth with stamps and signatures. Tomorrow we walk into the bank. Tomorrow we sign what needs signing. Tomorrow we speak to Mara. Tomorrow we begin the long part. For now, I breathe in mint. I breathe out fear. I listen to the quiet that comes after decision, and I say the one line that has already steadied me twice. Grandma, do not panic. I built the proof. Today I steady the kettle with one hand while the other smooths the map Evan unfolded. My fingers wobble on the cool metal. I refuse to give the tremor a name. Evan pulls a yellow sticky note from his pocket, writes in block letters, and slides it across the table so the ink faces me. Keep him talking. The wind chime taps once on the porch. I read the words twice and nod. Evan points at the phone beside the sealed envelope. When he calls, we aim for details that confirm location and timing. No accusations, no promises we cannot keep. His tone stays calm, not distant. He places a pen and a legal pad between us and numbers the top. Call log, date, time, duration. Here is the part that will divide people. You may need to sound willing to help him for a day, Evan says. My jaw tightens. Mothers are wired to help, yet help born of harm can become betrayal. Evan watches my face and lowers his voice. We are not enabling him. We are preserving facts. If he feels safe, he will give enough for Detective Collins to act. We do not record the call. We record times and statements. The chain of custody stays clean. The ringtone interrupts before I am ready. Daniel's name brightens the screen. I lift my hand, pause, then settle my fingers. Evan taps the sticky note with a fingertip. Keep him talking. I answer on speaker and let my voice stay level. Daniel starts fast. Mom, I just need breathing room. This is temporary. I borrowed from what we already had. I will return the funds when things settle. Borrowed lands like a dull blade. I take the path Evan and I rehearsed. Are you eating? Where did you settle for the night? Is the room quiet? Does the air conditioner rattle? He exhales. There is a diner across the lot. The coffee is bitter. The clerk keeps losing keys. We can finally breathe. The word we clicks like a switch. He insists this is not theft, only timing. A float he plans to replace, a bridge until a payout lands. He says the word investment with reverence and blames a market that punished effort. I can bring cash, I say. You will need gas. Tell me which exit brings me closest. He names a highway I know. Evan notes it. He drops a line he thinks means nothing. She says the place is loud, but the rate is decent. She. The pronoun lights a distant room. I do not ask who she is. Then get something hot, I say. Soup travels well. He mentions a neon, sign shaped like a lantern, a train horn at odd hours, a lot that empties after midnight and fills with trucks before dawn. Evan circles a small square on the map toward the station across the road. I pivot to timing. I teach a morning class at the senior center, I say. If I send a delivery after noon, will you still be there? He offers a careful answer. Probably. We have paperwork to finish. Another we. I file it with the first. Evan's pen scrapes across the page while he lists each phrase. No recordings, only contemporaneous notes. Mom, Daniel says, and I hear the boy I once walked to the clinic after a playground fall. I know how this looks. I just need to clear my head. I cannot breathe in that house. He adds a breadcrumb. She knows a manager. We can make this right soon. I allow one soft question. Is this the woman from the firm in Kettering? His tone hardens. Do not dig into that. Just help me. Evan slides another sticky note toward me. Ask for a landmark, then back away. If I send groceries, I say, I need to add a note for the driver. What color is the sign? What sits next door? Is it the station with the cracked blue pump? He chuckles without humor. That one. The pump eats cards. Use cash if you end up there. He does not hear what he confirmed. Evan underlines station and marks the minute in the margin. A truck horn echoes on his end and he swears. I have to move. The car company is being ridiculous. I steady my tone. Call me once you settle. He tries to recruit my silence. Do not tell anyone. Do not talk to the bank. I will fix it. I do not promise. I answer with a sentence that carries 3 meanings. I heard you. The call ends. The room expands. Evan exhales and raises 2 fingers. 2 reminders, he says. Every call is logged with date, start time, end time, and context. We staple these notes to your case file. The chain of custody remains intact from pen to folder to officer. Second, we do not access anything that is not yours. No passwords, no shortcuts. We keep this clean because the truth deserves a clear road. I feel the controversy under the table like a ripple in the grain. Somewhere a viewer will be angry that a mother pretended a willingness to help her son. It sits beside the clock and the map. I let the feeling stay, and I do not let it steer. Justice invites paradox. Love can hold a boundary. Truth can speak without a shaking finger. Evan caps his pen and turns the pad so I can read the lines. The last sentence waits at the margin in his neat hand. Suspect claims it is only alone and says he needs a place to breathe. He mentions a woman. He suggests a motel near a lantern-shaped neon sign. Evan leaves space for whatever tomorrow adds. I slide the pad back to him and place the sticky note on top. Then I say the 4 words out loud so the house will remember. For the record, keep him talking, please. Morning asks for paper, not panic. I set the envelope on the dining table and open my laptop. Evan sits across from me with the legal pad, the map folded away. We will build a record the law will respect. I breathe once and begin the federal form that names what happened. I open the identity theft report on the Federal Trade Commission site. The screen asks steady questions. My name, my address, dates I noticed unfamiliar activity, accounts involved. I type slowly and read each field aloud so Evan can check the spelling. He notes the time on the pad. I click submit. A confirmation page appears with a case number. I print the page and lay it on the table. The printer hums. Warm paper slides into my hand. Evan writes the case number on a sticky note and presses it to the corner. First one logged. Next is the Internet Crime Complaint Center. The fields look familiar. Name, address, phone. A narrative box waits for facts. I write what the banking app showed and what I said on the phone last night. I add that we will provide full records on request. I submit. An acknowledgement email arrives. I print the page and set it under the first confirmation. We freeze my credit. Equifax first, then Experian, then TransUnion. I answer identity questions about past addresses and car loans. Each bureau issues a reference number. Evan writes them in neat rows. I print the notices and clip the three together. They join the envelope with the case numbers. We can reach Tri-County Credit Union before lunch. I add my driver license and social security card to the envelope. We put on our coats and step into the Dayton air. The porch chime answers with one clear note. The branch lobby smells faintly of paper and coffee. A receptionist guides us to a small room. A man enters with a badge clipped to his belt. He introduces himself as Colton Reeves. He sits with a folder already open. I set the envelope on the table and speak first. I am Valerie Hart. These are the confirmations from the Federal Trade Commission and the Internet Crime Complaint Center. These are the notices from the 3 bureaus. My accounts show withdrawals I did not authorize. Colton listens, reads each confirmation, and nods at the case numbers. He asks for identification. I pass my license and social security card. He records the numbers. Colton slides a stack of forms across the table. Affidavit of fraud, dispute of unauthorized withdrawal, authorization to release information to law enforcement. He points to each signature line with a capped pen. I read the statements and sign where indicated. Evan notes each time so our list stays complete. Colton rises and walks to a printer in the corner. It rumbles to life. He prints copies for the bank and for us. He returns with the documents and a rubber stamp. The stamp is heavy in his hand. He inks it and presses it to the top page. A soft thud lands in my chest. The word appears in purple. Received. He repeats the motion on the second and third page. He slides a manila folder with the bank logo on the tab. Inside is a transaction summary. Transfers align with what I saw at home. Savings to checking. Checking to an external destination. The external line item includes a short description. Horizon Wealth Partners. The city reads, Kettering. Colton explains without drama. This description comes from counterparty information the bank collects when a transfer leaves our system. He places his finger beside the amount and lets the number stand alone. Evan writes the vendor name and underlines the city. I ask what happens next. Colton keeps his phrases tight. The bank will flag the account. The bank will provide records to Detective Mara Collins when her office requests them. The bank will issue a provisional credit only if the investigation supports it. I ask about the external description. He answers in the same measured tone. The line comes from a profile the receiving firm supplied. Sometimes the field includes a contact name. He scrolls on his screen where we cannot see. He turns a printed page, so only the corner faces us. The description line includes a short tag, at Sabrina Vale. He covers other fields with his palm. My breath stops, then starts. The name sits on the paper like a dropped pin. I do not speak it. Evan writes the name and adds a question mark. Colton reminds us that any outreach will come from law enforcement. He asks that I do not call anyone listed on the sheet. I nod. We are here to build a record, not to start a fight. He asks if Daniel contacted me after the transfers. I answer that we spoke by phone. I give him the time and the duration. He writes both on his log. Colton gathers the signed forms and places them in his file. He stamps the receipt for our folder and pushes it to my side. The purple rectangle marks the date and hour. He gives us a copy of the transaction summary we can take. He keeps the rest for the investigation. I place our copies in the envelope and close the clasp. We stand to leave. Colton walks us to the lobby and gives his extension. The line will send me straight to his desk. He nods and says we did the right thing by coming early. Outside, the wind lifts a page in the envelope. Evan tucks it deeper. We walk to the car without talking. The morning has not given comfort, but it has given direction. The printer sound, the stamp, and the folder slide echo in my mind. We drive toward home with a name we did not have when we woke. Horizon Wealth Partners, Kettering, at Sabrina Vale. The road feels narrower and far more clear. We drive to the high school first because I want Evan to hear one voice he trusts before we meet the county. The security desk hands me a paper visitor badge. Outside a lab with posters on digital ethics, we wait until the bell. Mr. Leon Park waves us in with a calm that quiets the room. I set our envelope on a lab table. Mr. Park studies the purple stamps without touching the pages. He asks Evan to list what we have. Evan names the Federal Trade Commission confirmation, the Internet Crime Complaint Center confirmation, the 3 credit freezes, the bank, forms, and our call log. He stops. Mr. Park writes 4 words on the whiteboard. Go by the book. He faces me. The urge to improvise will whisper, he says. The Internet makes shortcuts look harmless. Do not touch what is not yours. Use what belongs to you. Keep the chain of custody visible. He draws a simple flow. Report, freeze, bank, detective, district attorney. He circles the last box. Once you hand it to the county, let the county drive. He adds one more line. Witness present. If you deliver or receive anything, make sure someone official observes and signs. It keeps the story straight when a lawyer tries to bend it. He nods to Evan, who nods back. At the county building, a receptionist slides a sign-in log across the counter. I print my name and the time. Evan signs as support. She gives us visitor passes and points to a briefing room. A whiteboard on the far wall reads, Chain of Custody, in block letters. Detective Mara Collins walks in wearing a navy blazer and a practiced calm. We shake hands. She photographs our sealed envelope, writes the time on a form, initials it, and opens the clasp. She fans the contents into neat stacks. Federal confirmations, credit bureau notices, bank forms with the word received stamped in purple. She asks for my full name and address for the record. I answer. She asks what led me to file. I describe what the bank app showed and what Daniel said on the phone. She reads the Tri-County summary and rests her finger on the external counterparty. Horizon Wealth Partners, City Kettering. She writes both on the board. Then she explains next steps. She will verify the bank activity through formal channels. She will request records by subpoena. She will prepare an affidavit for a judge. If the judge signs, she will serve a warrant at the firm. She asks about our call log. Evan passes the pad. Mara reads and checks times against the confirmation emails. I need to ask something hard, she says. Did either of you access accounts that are not yours? Did you open files not addressed to you? Did you touch Daniel's devices? I meet her eyes. We used my statements, my alerts, my mail, and documents provided by the bank. Nothing else. Mara nods, but her tone stays level. Courts are strict about how evidence is born. If a defense attorney finds a technical irregularity, a judge can exclude a mountain of truth. That is why you call me before you collect anything new. No chasing. Bring it here. I will put a date and a signature on it. She looks at Evan. If your club knows public sources that help with timelines, you can note them. You do not harvest anything behind a gate. Evan answers with Mr. Park's words. We will go by the book. Mara writes the sentence on the whiteboard and adds a check. She returns to the bank sheet. There's a short tag on the counterparty line, she says. It reads, Aten Sabrina Vale. The name changes the air. Mara writes Sabrina under the firm name and boxes both. She asks whether Daniel mentioned a woman. I repeat his line. We can finally breathe. She writes the word we next to Sabrina and underlines it once. Mara opens a thin red binder. The tab reads, Sign in and receipt. I sign that I delivered documents on this date and time to Detective Collins. She signs below and adds the intake number. She tucks our receipt into a sleeve and hands me her card. Keep a log of every contact, the card says. Before we leave, I ask the question that has waited since we parked. What if a judge asks how we got the name on that transfer? She points to the chain of custody chart. You got it from a bank document created in the ordinary course of business. You received it during a recorded meeting. I logged the intake and photographed the envelope before opening it. In the lobby, Evan studies his visitor badge like a token from a harder game. He asks if we did enough. We did what we could today, and we did it right, I say. Near the exit, a flyer lists 3 flags. Pressure to act fast, secrecy framed as love, requests that skip trusted channels. I take a photo and save it with the map and the case numbers. As we push through the doors, my phone buzzes with a new voicemail from an unknown number. I do not press it. Evan looks across the lot. If anyone argues our evidence is tainted, we point to every signature and every stamp. The court can follow the paper home. I drop the visitor badge in the bin and think of Daniel's first science fair and the ribbon he won for a magnet made from a nail and a battery. Pride is good when it learns to bow. When it does not, it turns sharp and cuts the hands that hold it. I start the car toward Kettering. The names we carry ride with us. Horizon Wealth Partners, Sabrina Vale, Detective Collins, Mr. Park. They feel like stones I plan to stack into a wall. Not to hide, it's about to mark a boundary the law can see. St. Luke's smells like lemon oil when I push open the heavy door. Stained glass lays color on empty pews. Alma Ruiz sits 2 rows from the front with a knit shawl. Her hands rest on a cream envelope. I slide into the pew so the light falls on the wood, not on our faces. I brought the comparison, I say. She nods. I set the folder on the bench and pull out 2 statements. One is the banking record from the credit union. The other is the glossy report Horizon mailed last quarter. I place them side by side with the dates aligned. Alma runs a fingertip down the bank column and stops at the number that stole her sleep. 28,600. Then she taps the curve on the glossy page that pretends nothing happened. The caption reads, "Market loss." I believed this, she whispers. I told my sister it would come back. Her nurse training wakes up. She leans closer and reads the vital signs in the numbers. She points to a transaction code she does not recognize and to a date stamp that does not match the bank line. Her jaw settles. This is not a loss. This is a transfer. I nod. Detective Collins. We'll request the full ledger. For now, we mark what belongs to you. I slide a notepad toward her and write her name in the corner. District Attorney Priya Shah will help you file an affidavit. I place a blank form where she can see spaces for date, account, and signature. We will sign with a witness. She looks at the windows and back to the pages. How did they make it look so clean? I answer the way Mr. Park taught me. They borrowed the language of risk and hid a theft inside it. I point to the line where the forged statement breaks from the bank timeline. This is where the story fails. A whisper rises from the side chapel. Alma folds her hands to keep them still. I was not careless, she says. I met her at the office twice. She had diplomas on the wall. I need to ask something hard, I say. Who pointed you to her? Alma presses her lips together, then answers with a detail that chills the pew. The church newsletter. She slides a pamphlet from her purse. A small box reads, Financial Wellness Night with Sabrina V., Kettering. Bring your questions and your statements. The newsletter carries the weight of trust. Whoever approved the blurb handed her a key to this community. We will show this to Priya, I say. It proves how she reached you. Alma nods. I invited 2 friends and both brought folders. She said it was smart to consolidate. I make notes on the pad, names, phone numbers, dates. I do not press for the friends today. Priya's office will call you this afternoon, I say. She will set a time for you to sign and bring a photo ID. She will explain restitution if a judge orders it. I add my case numbers to a sticky note and place it on the pamphlet. Alma opens the cream envelope on her lap. Inside are 3 receipts with curling edges and a handwritten budget that lists rent, medication, and food. The subtraction after the grocery line is written twice. She smooths the page and gives a thin laugh that does not reach her eyes. I thought I lost my nerve, she says. Turns out I lost my savings. I do not offer a promise I cannot keep. I offer work. May Mara copy the newsletter and the glossy report today. She can meet us at the parish office. Alma folds the pamphlet and tucks it away. Yes, she says, I want my name to say something besides easy target. We stand. The stained glass casts red and gold on the aisle. In the vestibule, a corkboard holds notices for choir practice and a blood drive. Alma pins a sticky note that reads, Fraud Resources, and tapes a blank sheet beneath it. She writes 3 steps. Report to the FTC. Freeze credit at the 3 bureaus. Call the bank and ask for the fraud team. Detective Collins arrives with a folder. She greets Alma by name and asks for permission to copy the pamphlet and the report. Alma grants it. Mara fills out a receipt that lists the items and notes they may be returned or preserved as evidence. Alma asks if she should warn her sister. Mara says yes and keeps her advice short. Speak only to law enforcement and to the district attorney's office. We move to a small office near the sacristy. Mara scans the pamphlet and the report. She prints a copy for Alma and one for me. She stamps the top of each with a date and time. The purple rectangle appears. Received carries weight. Before we leave, Alma touches my wrist. I will sign whatever Priya asks, she says, but I need to tell you something I did not say inside the nave. She lowers her voice. I saw Daniel at the wellness night. He stood near the coffee urn and left before the questions. Her eyes search mine for anger. I give her steadiness. Thank you, I say. We will note it and let the county sort the rest. Outside, the air is cooler. Alma's steps are slow but even. She presses the envelope to her chest the way mothers carry school pictures. We part at the curb. I watch her head toward the bus stop and read the date on the pamphlet again. Evan meets me by the side door with 2 cups of tea. We sit on the stone bench. He passes me a pen. I add Alma Ruiz to the list of names and place a check beside affidavit pending. The list is not a burden. It is a map back to dignity. We breathe and keep going. News breaks as afternoon light washes the living room. The television hums. A ticker crawls under blurred anchors. Horizon Wealth Partners suspends Associate Sabrina Vale pending internal review. I click the power. I do not cheer. I square the picture of Thomas on the shelf. His smile steadies me more than any headline. Evan steps in from the kitchen. A win on the board, he says, not the finish. I nod. The envelope with purple received stamps sits in the center of the table. The stamps matter more than television. My phone vibrates. Daniel. I look at Evan. He slides a sticky note toward me. Keep him talking. I answer and put the call on speaker. Mom, someone is hunting us, he says. This is not normal pressure. Cards declined. A car company keeps calling. The motel desk had questions. We have to move. Where are you calling from? I ask. He stalls, then offers a scrap. Near the highway, we've been bouncing between places around Dayton and Springfield. Safer not to settle. He uses we again. I repeat it so he hears it. You and who? He changes course. I need cash to get out of the state. After that, I can wire you back. When do you leave? I ask. He says soon. Then the plan slips free. We can reach Jacksonville in a day if we push. She knows someone with a short-term place. We just need air. I keep questions small. If I send groceries, will you be near the same exit? The diner with the bitter coffee and the neon lantern. He snorts. Hard to miss that sign. We rotate between the lantern and a spot by the fairgrounds. East toward Springfield, we use a truck stop for showers. Near Dayton, we use the station by the old bridge. I am not giving you the number. Evan writes on the legal pad. He notes each landmark. He underlines Jacksonville and circles she. I ask about fuel as if I'm planning a delivery. The cracked blue pump. Does it still eat cards? He laughs without humor. It hates every card we try, cash only. A door thumps on his end. His voice drops. Whoever is doing this has eyes everywhere. We tried to rent for a week. The manager got a call and refused to take our names. I know you talked to someone. Tell them to back off. We are not chasing you, I say. We are reporting facts to people who know what to do. I let the sentence stand. If I help with gas, what is the safest drop without spooking your friend at the desk? He softens. Envelope, first name on the outside. I will text a word so she knows it is me. A train horn bleeds through his speaker. He says he has to go. Do not call the bank. Do not mess with anything. I can fix this once we reach Florida. I tell him I heard him. The line clicks off. Evan reads our notes back. Lantern sign, fairgrounds, truck stop east, gas station by the old bridge, Jacksonville, envelope drop. He records the start and end time from the phone log. He photographs the page for backup. We do not transmit evidence outside proper channels. I call Detective Mara Collins and leave a concise message with the call time and the landmarks Daniel named. I send a short email to District Attorney Priya Shah with the same summary. No attachments. The county will collect what it needs with a subpoena. Our job is to hold steady and keep the log clean. We do not drive by a motel. We do not follow a car. We do not touch devices or accounts that are not mine. The television stays dark. Priya will ask a judge for what she needs. Mara will carry the papers. My part looks small from the outside. It does not feel small here. Evan returns the envelope to the center and checks the lock. I return to the shelf. The picture of Thomas holds. He finished the work the day gave him. I place the frame closer to the wall so it will not wobble. Evan asks if I am afraid. I say I am afraid of harm that wears a family name and walks through doors without knocking. I am not afraid of forms. I am not afraid of a process that moves slowly and arrives. My phone lights with a new voicemail. No ring. I listen on speaker at low volume. A man says he has a furnished room in Jacksonville on short notice. He leaves a callback number. I save the message and write the timestamp. Evan writes the name and brackets it on the margin. We plan the next hour. Forward the voicemail to Mara when she calls back. Wait for instructions before we act. Do not call Florida. Do not tip anyone who might warn them. Keep our side of the record bright. If Daniel reaches out again, ask for details we can verify, then log the time. We stay who we said we were. Citizens who report. Officers who respond. A court that decides. Outside a dry, leaf skitters across the porch. I turn the remote face down. The win today is not the suspension. The win is our refusal to chase headlines or people. We choose steady steps. I fold the email printouts and slide them into a fresh folder. Evan writes midpoint on the tab and adds today's date. He draws a small box and shades it in. One box in a line that will become a staircase. We do not know how many steps remain. We know what the next one is. The clock ticks. The glass on Thomas's frame catches a stripe of light and lets it go. I rest my palm on the folder. The day has asked enough. We answer with clean notes and a door locked against the wind. The first chime is soft. By the fourth, it feels like a fire alarm. Emails stack in my inbox, their subject lines crowding the preview pane. At the top is one from a law office I do not know. I click. The words cease and desist fill the header in block capitals, the kind that makes a kitchen feel colder even with the light on. The letter claims I am defaming Sabrina Vale. It accuses me of malicious intent. It demands that I retract all false statements and threatens immediate legal remedies if I do not comply. The language is polished and impersonal, but I hear Daniel in every turn of phrase, his knack for pushing fear into the right veins. Before I can decide how to respond, the other emails pull focus. Subject lines from names I recognize. Choir members, the Tuesday potluck committee, the outreach coordinator. The body text of each one has the same rhythm. A polite greeting. A few sentences about concerns regarding my mental clarity. A soft nudge toward taking time to rest. And then the sting. Mentions of rumors that I am confused and possibly unstable. Evan leans over my shoulder. They're trying to discredit you before you can testify, he says quietly. He scrolls further. The same phrases appear over and over, copied into different messages as if from a shared template. The kettle clicks off behind us. I leave it. My eyes fix on a name in one email, Alma Ruiz, forwarded from another member of St. Luke's. The web is tightening around the very people we've been trying to protect. I open my own contact archive to compare. That's when I remember the church's internal directory. Years ago, when I was helping with the bulletin, I saved a copy to my laptop so I could update addresses without going back to the office. That laptop sat on my desk for years before I loaned it to Daniel, who said he needed something to mock up a new newsletter format. The memory lands heavy. Daniel had the entire member directory in his hands. It listed birthdays, mailing addresses, and most importantly, notes about each member's volunteer history. For older congregants, it sometimes included whether they were retired or living on fixed incomes. I pull the backup drive from my desk drawer and connect it to the computer. The old files appear. There it is. St. Luke's member. Contact 2016. I click. The list opens, columns neatly labeled. I scroll and stop when I see Alma's name. 2 columns over, the note reads, Retired teacher, receives state pension. I check another victim's name from Mara's list. The same kind of note. Evan doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. The pattern is there. If someone wanted to filter the list for older members with steady retirement income, all it would take is a quick sort. I call Mara Collins. She answers on the second ring. I tell her I've found an archived church directory from before Daniel borrowed my laptop, and that it appears to contain notes on members' financial stability. There's a pause on her end, then a sharp inhale. Do not send me the file electronically. Leave it exactly as it is. Within an hour, Mara is at my door with an evidence bag and a chain of custody form. She wears her jacket zipped high against the wind. We log the device, then the drive. Then we lock it in evidence. The DA will request a warrant to examine the contents. At the kitchen table, she has me write the date and time of discovery, the location of the file, and the reason I accessed it. She slides the laptop into one bag, the backup drive into another, then seals them both with numbered tags. I initial across the seals. She writes the tag numbers into her notebook. This changes the scope, Mara says, tucking the evidence under her arm. If we can show he used that list to target people, it strengthens the pattern. As she leaves, the email chimes again. Another message from the law office, this time marked urgent. I do not open it. Priya Shah's office will handle all correspondence now. Evan locks the door after Mara. They thought a letter would make you back down, he says. Instead, it handed us a motive. The kettle is still full. I pour 2 mugs and slide one toward him. My hands are steady now. The kitchen light feels less cold. The cease and desist is still on the counter, its formal language trying to loom over the room. But beside it, the chain of custody form holds more weight. We log the time of Mara's departure in our notes. We record the evidence tag numbers in the margin. This is what will matter later, not the rumors passed around in BCC'd emails or the neat legal threats designed to frighten. Outside, the wind moves through the porch chimes, low and certain. Inside, the evidence sits in a sealed bag on its way to a place where stories are weighed against proof. And proof, I remind myself, speaks louder than whispers. The envelope from the high school arrives with the rest of the afternoon mail. I almost set it aside, thinking it's a schedule update or a notice about an upcoming event. But the bold header, Notice of Conduct Review, stops me cold. Inside is a single sheet. The language is careful but unmistakable. Evan is being cautioned for using personal devices for activities unrelated to assigned coursework during school hours. It doesn't mention the case, but I can read between the lines. Someone connected his work for me to the school network logs. When he gets home, I'm sitting at the kitchen table with the letter in front of me. He freezes when he sees it. I wasn't hacking, he says quickly. I know, I interrupt. My voice is calm. But the school doesn't see the difference. And neither will a defense attorney if they can make it sound like you were pulling private data on your own. He pulls out the chair across from me. The fight drains from his face. So what now? I close the laptop I'd been using and push it toward the filing cabinet in the corner. From this point forward, everything you do is in this house, on my equipment, and only at the direction of Detective Collins or DA Shaw. No personal devices, no independent searches. We are not giving anyone the chance to claim our evidence is tainted. His mouth opens as if to argue, but then he nods. All right, I'll stop all direct lookups. I can still help with structure. Like, if we know what documents are coming in, I can keep them in order. Timelines, color coding. That's exactly what we need, I say. Paper trails, a clean chain from the first affidavit to the last receipt. I unlock the filing cabinet and pull out an empty drawer. Inside, we set up hanging folders. Evan labels each one with a date and a category. Bank records, affidavits, witness statements. The tabs stand in neat rows, color-coded by type. Blue for financial, yellow for personal testimony, red for legal filings. On the kitchen counter, the printer hums, spitting out the day's editions. Evan takes each page and stamps it with the time received. The sound of the stamp is steady, final. He slips each page into the correct folder, the colors forming their own kind of map. As he works, I slide the school letter into a manila envelope marked private. It's not part of the evidence, but it's part of the story. If anyone ever questions why our process shifted here, we'll have the record. We go over the rules one more time. No accessing accounts unless the request comes directly from Mara or Priya. No storing files on personal drives. Everything stays in this room until it's logged into the official case file. Evan leans back and looks at the growing wall of folders. It's cleaner this way, he admits. If someone ever asks, we can just point to the sequence. No gaps. That's the idea, I tell him. It's not just about proving what happened. It's about proving we followed every rule in getting there. The late afternoon sun moves across the table, catching the edges of the color-coded tabs. The order is almost soothing. For the first time in days, I feel like we're ahead of the chaos instead of running behind it. Evan picks up the last stack of papers and flips through them before filing them away. I'll update the timeline tonight, he says. Dates, times, who submitted what. That way, if Priya needs to cross-reference, it's all ready. I nod. That's your role now. You're not the one chasing the trail. You're the one making sure it's impossible to erase. When we lock the cabinet at the end of the evening, the click of the key is a small but certain sound. Outside, the wind rattles the bare branches. Inside, our evidence sits in perfect order, ready for the next move, and untouchable by anyone who might try to twist it. When Priya finally calls me into her office, the stack of folders on her desk is thicker than anything I've seen so far. She doesn't waste time. These are the financials we pulled from the DA's subpoenas. You should know what we're working with. I take the first folder. Inside are pages of credit card statements in Daniel's name. The balances are staggering. Several cards at or near their limits, interest rates climbing past 20%. Each page has the same red stamp across the top. Past due. I flip forward and find transaction after transaction tied to crypto exchanges. Not just buying coins, but leveraged positions. Margin trades that magnify both gains and losses. A separate printout shows the crash in those positions. 1 week of bad market swings had wiped out almost everything he'd put in, and the interest on borrowed funds ballooned immediately. My stomach knots. It's not an excuse, but I can see how quickly a person could go from trying to make extra money to sinking under a debt that grows faster than they can breathe. The next folder is his employment file from Eaton. There's a short, blunt note in HR language. Position terminated due to restructuring. The date is less than 3 weeks before the first suspicious withdrawal from my account. Priya's voice is low when she says, "They cut an entire department." Severance was minimal. Benefits ended the same month. I set it aside and pick up the third folder. This one is Sabrina's. At first, I expect more financial speculation, but what I see instead are medical bills. The top invoice is for dialysis treatment. Patient listed as Matthew Vale, her younger brother. The charges are relentless. Weekly sessions, medication, specialist consultations. The totals climb into the tens of thousands, and every page has the same insurance notation: partial coverage only. There's also a hospital financial aid denial letter. The income threshold was just low enough that she didn't qualify for full assistance, yet high enough to keep her from charity care. It's a cruel gap I've seen before, one that leaves people drowning in medical debt even when they've done nothing wrong. I lean back, absorbing it all. They were desperate, I say, almost to myself. Priya nods. Desperation doesn't excuse betrayal, Valerie. But understanding motive can help a jury believe intent, and it gives us context for the sting. Evan is silent in the chair beside me. His eyes move over the numbers, but he doesn't speak. I can tell he's trying to reconcile the cousin he once trusted with the man who saw our family as an easy mark. We're about to close the folder when Mara steps in with a printed email. "You'll want to see this," she says, handing it to me. It's from Sabrina, sent to several people we've identified as victims. The tone is defensive, even aggressive. She blames volatile market conditions for the losses, painting herself as a victim of global forces beyond her control. Then, near the end, a sentence that makes my pulse spike. "If you continue to collaborate with those making false accusations, including Ms. Ruiz, you may face civil action for defamation." She's threatening Alma? My voice comes out sharper than I intend. "Yes," Mara says, and she CC'd her attorney to make it look official. I picture Alma's small frame under the stained glass of St. Luke's, her hands trembling as she opened the envelope with her account statement. The idea of her being intimidated into silence fills me with a cold anger. Priya closes the file with deliberate care. "We'll make sure she's protected. Legal aid can walk her through an affidavit response, and any communication from Sabrina will be logged. This kind of pressure is exactly why we build cases slowly and by the book." Evan looks from Priya to Mara. "So the sting is still on?" "It's on," Mara confirms. "The paperwork is clean. We've got the warrants ready. We just need the right moment, and both of them in the same place." Outside, the streetlights cast long beams through the blinds, striping the room in alternating light and shadow. I press my palm against the edge of the desk, grounding myself. I can hold the weight of knowing why they did it without letting it soften the truth of what they chose to do. When we leave, Priya hands me a thin folder. Just the portions I'm allowed to take. Hospital bills, credit card debts, termination notice, evidence of pressure, not justification. Evan tucks it into the case binder without comment. In the car, the city hums past in the dark, neon from a gas station flickering on the windshield. I think about Daniel staring at his account balances, about Sabrina counting out bills for her brother's treatment, and then I think about my balance, $12 and a vanished college fund, the look on Alma's face, the whispered prayers under stained glass. Desperation explains the path they took, but it doesn't make it right, and it won't stop us from seeing this through to the end. Mara spread the printed checklist across my kitchen table. Her pen tapped twice over the header before she looked up at me. "Valerie, the goal is simple. Keep Daniel engaged long enough for us to lock in the details. No threats, no accusations. Just let him talk himself into giving us what we need." I nodded, fingers curled around my tea mug. The steam curled between us, thin as the line we were about to walk. Evan sat beside me, his notepad open, pen poised like he was ready to write down every heartbeat. Mara pointed to him. "You'll track the time. Every minute, every change in tone, every name he drops, we log it. Priya's team will be ready to move once we confirm a physical location." The red marker on the table rolled toward me. Without thinking, I caught it. "And when he says where he is, you mark it," Mara said. "Mark it big." The plan felt deceptively ordinary. Answer the call, sound concerned but not suspicious, listen for slips. Mara stressed that we weren't following him or tracing anything ourselves. Everything would be tied to his own words. statements we could corroborate and present in court without a single crack for a defense attorney to exploit. Evan slid a folded paper toward me, a rough sketch of U.S. Route 40 with blank spots where the motels sat. He'd left room for me to write. Priya arrived halfway through the briefing, setting her briefcase on the counter with a decisive click. Once we have the name of the place, we execute the warrant. This isn't a chase scene, Valerie. It's paperwork, signatures, timestamps, and patience. That's how we win. I breathed in slow. Patience had never been my strong suit when my family was involved. We did a practice run. Evan pretended to be Daniel. I had to ask open-ended questions, feigning confusion over details, circling back on harmless-sounding points until he accidentally let something slip. Mara watched closely, jotting notes each time I managed to guide the conversation without sounding like I was guiding it. By the third run, my throat felt tight from pretending to be calm. Mara said that was a good sign. When Daniel's number finally flashed on my screen, the kitchen went still. The clock on the wall ticked over to 4:07 p.m. I pressed the speaker button, holding the phone steady between us. "Mom," he began, his voice pitched low like he was already looking over his shoulder. "We've been moving around. It's not safe to stay put." I kept my tone even. "I understand. I worry about you two. Where are you now? Somewhere with heat?" He hesitated. Evan's pen tapped twice, a signal we'd agreed on that meant, "Keep circling the point." "Yeah, we found a place. Cheap enough." "What kind of place? You know I picture the worst when you don't tell me." "It's fine, Mom. Blue Lantern Motel near the highway." Evan's red marker screeched across the paper. He drew a firm circle around a square labeled Room 12. "Blue Lantern," I repeated softly, as if I were tucking it into memory for a Christmas card instead of a case file. "Is the room warm? I remember some of those old motels had drafty doors." "It's fine. Room 12. Look, I can't talk long." Mara's hand lifted, palm flat. She mouthed, "Good." I let him go, thanked him for calling, and set the phone down with deliberate care. Evan had already written the time. 4:13 p.m. Priya picked up her briefcase. "That's all we need. Valerie, you did exactly right." In less than a minute, the address was in official hands. The warrant papers, already drafted, waiting, would be stamped before the hour was out. The house exhaled with me. My hands shook just enough to rattle the tea in my cup. I wasn't proud of the calm I'd faked, but in that moment I understood why Mara had called it discipline. This wasn't about outsmarting Daniel. It was about building a wall he couldn't climb over in court. Evan pushed the circled map toward Priya. "Everything from here goes through you." She nodded. "And if this holds, Room 12 will be our start, not our finish." I sat back, eyes on that red circle. It was small, just a mark on paper. But to me, it was the point where the tide began to turn. The rain began before sundown, just a thin curtain that blurred the street lights and smeared the glow from the Blue Lantern's neon sign into the wet blacktop. Through the kitchen window, I could see my own reflection holding the phone, my hand wrapped so tight around it that my knuckles had gone white. Mara's voice came steady in my ear. "We're on site. Stand by." I pictured the place from memory. A squat, single-story strip of doors with peeling blue paint, the kind of place you only stop at when you've run out of options. Evan had shown me the satellite photo earlier. Now I imagined each car in the lot. There was only one. Static crackled on the line. In the background, someone's radio whispered codes I didn't understand. Mara's tone shifted, low and focused. "Moving in." Outside, rain hissed against the eaves. I turned off the kitchen light so I could see the reflection of the scene clearer in my mind. Through the phone, I heard the faint thump of boots on wet concrete, then a sharp knock. "Police." Her voice was clear, firm, leaving no space for misunderstanding. A muffled shuffle followed, then the metallic click of a key tag. Room 12, sliding into the lock. I sat at the table, my free hand resting flat on the wood, willing my breathing to match the steady pace of Mara's movements. The door creaked open. I caught the faint sound of rain hitting the threshold. "Ma'am, step back." That was a different voice. Male, controlled. I heard the rustle of fabric, the shift of weight, then a sharper sound, the snap of handcuffs closing. "Name?" someone asked. "Sabrina Vale." Even muffled, the resignation in her voice reached me. She didn't protest, didn't raise her tone. Mara came back on the line. "She's in custody. No resistance. We're securing the scene." I closed my eyes. For a moment, all I could hear was the steady patter of rain and the quiet clicks of evidence bags being sealed. Then Mara's tone changed again, sharper. "Where's the mail?" A younger voice answered, "Stopped for gas 5 minutes out." Route 40. I opened my eyes to the dim kitchen. My fingers tightened around the phone, but I didn't speak. This part wasn't mine to handle. From the background noise, I could picture Priya's team in their methodical routine, photographing the motel room, logging each item, tagging the evidence. Every object, every scrap of paper would be listed in the chain of custody. The rain seemed to grow louder, or maybe it was just the quiet on my end making it feel that way. My hand slid away from the table, and I let the phone rest there, speaker still on, the voices small but clear. When Mara finally said, "Transporting now," I exhaled. The line stayed open as they moved. The squelch of wet boots, the slam of a car door, the distant hum of the neon sign still flickering behind them. Sabrina was gone from room 12, but Daniel was still out there, and the rain kept falling. The phone rang just after 9. I didn't need to check the caller ID to know it was Daniel. His voice hit my ear in a rush, breathless, jagged. Someone just canceled my cards. And the bank, they froze my account. The repo truck's circling. They're about to take the car. I kept my tone even, letting my words settle slow. "Did you eat dinner yet?" A pause, confusion threading through his breathing. "What? No, Grandma, listen." "I was just making tea," I continued, quiet and steady. "Do you still have that old kettle at your place, or did you get rid of it?" Rain tapped against my kitchen window. Far away, under his voice, I caught a faint mechanical growl, low gears grinding, then the metallic clink of a tow hook finding steel. Daniel's voice cracked upward. "They're hooking it up now. Grandma, you don't understand. I can't—" "You'll need something warm to drink," I said, cutting in just enough to keep him talking. "It's a cold night." Through the open line, a sharper sound came, paper being slapped against glass. A ticket? Or a repo notice? Then came the whoop of a siren, quick and distant. "What was that?" I asked. "Police. I think they're pulling in. He stopped short, his breath catching. I pictured the Blue Lantern's lot under the rain, the dull orange of the sodium lamps cutting into the dark, the wet pavement catching each flash of red and blue. "They're saying something," Daniel muttered, his voice dipping low, "asking me to step out." I didn't speak. My fingers curled around the phone, holding the silence for him to fill. His voice broke again. "They've got my name and, oh, come on, really?" In the background, a calm, rehearsed voice began reciting the Miranda rights. The words were clear enough that I could see the scene without being there. An officer's hand resting on his elbow, the other holding the cuffs. Daniel's. Jacket damp and sticking to his shoulders, the neon from room 12 still flickering on the wet pavement a few yards away. "They want my phone," he said suddenly, almost as if he'd forgotten I was on the line. Then the sound shifted, muffled, pockets of quiet, then the solid thunk of a car door closing. "Grandma." The line clicked and went dead. I set the phone down on the table, next to the small stack of papers I'd been keeping within reach. Mara's contact sheet, Priya's latest updates, Evan's neatly written timeline. Outside, the rain had eased to a mist, the streets slick and shining. I imagined Priya's team moving in tight formation, evidence bags marked, devices powered down, each step logged. The chain of custody would pass from the motel to the arrest site without a break. Room 12's door would be sealed, the items inside tagged and logged against the same case file. Somewhere in that wet parking lot, Daniel was being guided into the back of a cruiser. No struggle. No words left to barter with. I didn't feel the kind of triumph people imagine when they hear the end of a story like this. The quiet in my kitchen felt heavier than before, and I let it stay that way. Through the phone's blank screen, the last image in my mind was the rain pooling under the patrol car's tires, the red and blue lights shattering across the water, and the sound of the repo truck pulling away into the night. Priya placed the thick envelope on the table between us. The notary's seal caught the light, stamped clean against the pale paper. 18,400, she said quietly. Court-ordered restitution. Your share. I stared at it for a moment before sliding it closer. My hands didn't shake, but they felt heavy. This wasn't victory money. It was what was left after months of fear, sleepless nights, and watching people I trusted become strangers. Later, I watched as other envelopes changed hands. Alma at St. Luke's, the quiet man from the credit union, a retired couple I'd never met before. Each of them held their envelope differently. Some with gratitude, some with suspicion, some with eyes brimming at the thought of what had been lost and was now, in part, returned. Evan stood off to the side, camera bag over his shoulder, filming short clips for the Quiet Beacon launch. He'd been working on it since the case began. Family fraud protection, he called it. His logo was simple, a lantern inside an open hand. I had told him it looked trustworthy. A week later, we were at the Kettering Senior Center. Folding chairs lined the hall, the kind that creak when you shift your weight. The smell of brewed coffee lingered in the corners. Evan adjusted the projector while I sat in the front row, notes folded neatly in my lap. He started with a slide titled 3 Silent Signs. The room grew still as he spoke. 1, he said, pointing to the screen, unexpected account changes. 2, unexplained, intermediaries. And 3, shifts in communication patterns. These are subtle, but they matter. People leaned forward, pens scratching in notebooks. A woman in the second row raised her phone to take a picture of the slide. I could hear the soft rustle of papers, the click of ballpoint pens, the small coughs in between his sentences. When it was my turn, I spoke about the power of asking questions early, before something felt too big to stop. My voice didn't waver, but I could feel the weight of certain faces looking back at me, faces that had lived through their own quiet disasters. Then, from the back, a man asked, "Why didn't you forgive your son?" The room stilled. I could feel every gaze shift toward me. I took a breath, meeting his eyes. Forgiveness, I said slowly, is a personal choice. But protecting others, especially those who may not see the danger, that's a responsibility. I can't change what happened to me, but I can make sure fewer people fall into the same trap. The man nodded once, though his expression didn't change. We closed the session with a soft reminder. Names and locations in this story have been changed to protect privacy. If you suspect fraud, report it to the FTCIC3 and your local police. Don't wait. As people filed out, some stopped to shake my hand. A few asked for more details about Quiet Beacon. Others just pressed my palm and whispered, "Thank you." Back in the empty hall, I gathered my notes and looked at the folded chairs stacked against the wall. The projector screen still glowed faintly with the last slide, the lantern in the open hand. It wasn't the end of the story, but it was a start. The phone on the kitchen counter began to ring, its sharp tone breaking the stillness of the afternoon. I didn't have to look at the caller ID to know. The glowing screen confirmed it anyway. Montgomery County Jail. The words might as well have been carved into ice. They carried weight, a cold finality, and the reminder that some distances aren't measured in miles. I stood in the doorway, one hand resting lightly on the frame, watching the phone blink in time with each ring. Outside the window, snow had begun to fall again. a thin powder settling over the porch steps. Each flake caught the pale winter light and vanished into the white sheet already forming. I didn't move to answer. Not because my hands were frozen and not because my heart was pounding. It wasn't fear holding me still, and it wasn't hate either. It was the line I had drawn for myself, one I had learned to keep. A boundary that said, not today, not like this. The phone rang on, the sound filling the kitchen in long intervals, almost matching the slow tick of the mantel clock in the living room. Across the room, Thomas's photograph sat on the shelf in the new frame I had chosen last week. Dark walnut, polished until it reflected light like still water. The photo showed him as I remembered. Best, steady eyes, a slight smile, the kind of face that could deliver hard truths without cruelty. I imagined him watching me now, not pressing, not judging, just letting me choose. I had answered too many calls before, each one starting with a strained grandma and tumbling into a mess of explanations and deflections. I'd be told about unfair accusations, about misunderstandings, about things taken out of context. Somewhere in there would be the suggestion that I was being used against him. Every time I hung up from those calls, I felt smaller, tired, more unsure of my own ground. This time, I knew better. I wouldn't open that door. The ringing stopped abruptly, and silence rushed in, heavy and complete. The heater hummed faintly in the corner, carrying the dry scent of warmed air. I thought it might be over, but then the phone started again, the sound from the other room now, persistent, almost pleading. I crossed the kitchen slowly, not to answer, but to turn off the stove where the kettle had begun to hiss. Steam drifted upward, carrying the scent of chamomile. I poured the hot water into my mug, letting the swirl of heat curl around my fingers. Through the window, I watched a single crow land on the fence, shake the snow from its wings, and fly off again. The world outside kept moving. Inside, I stood in the middle of my kitchen, aware that somewhere across the city, Daniel was listening to the recorded voice telling him his call had not been accepted. Maybe he hung up frustrated. Maybe he didn't care. Or maybe, for just a moment, he felt the stillness I was feeling now, the space where no one else could step in and rearrange the truth. I didn't wish him harm. Even now, that wasn't in me. But I did believe in the weight of consequences. The choices that had led him to a cold cell and a collect call were his, not mine. And the same way I couldn't carry his debts, I couldn't carry his redemption. That would have to be his work. I sat down at the table, setting my mug on a coaster. The notebook where I had recorded every step of this process, dates, times, people, lay nearby. I closed it slowly, pressing the cover flat with my palm before sliding it into the drawer. That chapter was done. In the quiet, I could hear the snow tapping lightly against the glass. My tea cooled enough to sip, and I let the warmth move through me. Across the room, the clock ticked on, steady as breath. The phone stayed silent for a while, but I knew the call could come again. And if it did, the answer would be the same. Not because I wanted to erase him from my life, but because I understood now that conversation without change was just a loop, spinning until it made both people dizzy. Someday, if Daniel faced what he'd done without excuses, without trying to make others carry the shame, then maybe I could answer. Maybe then I could listen without feeling like the floor was shifting under me. But that day wasn't here yet. Until then, this silence was its own kind of justice. Not loud, not dramatic, just a firm reminder that boundaries can hold, even under pressure. The kettle on the stove clicked as it cooled. I took another sip of tea, letting the flavor settle. There was peace in knowing the line I'd drawn was still where I'd left it. No one else had moved it. No one else could. Outside, the crow returned to the fence, stayed for a moment, and left again. The snow continued to fall, covering its tracks almost instantly. I thought of how easy it is for people to believe silence means indifference. But this wasn't that. This was choosing not to participate in another round of words that went nowhere. It was refusing to let the past repeat itself one more time, just because someone else was ready to talk. I reached for Thomas's photograph, holding it just long enough to feel the smooth edge of the frame. "I'm okay," I said quietly, though there was no one in the room to hear. And I meant it. The phone stayed dark, the snow kept falling, and I sat there, steady, knowing I could face tomorrow without second-guessing what I'd done today. The wind was cool but not biting as Evan and I walked along the paved path at Riverscape Metro Park. The Great Miami River ran broad and calm beside us, reflecting the soft gray of a late winter afternoon. On the opposite bank, bare trees lined the water's edge, their branches like quiet ink strokes against the sky. In my hands, I carried the thin cardboard folder that had once been so heavy with paper. Now it was empty, its weight no more than the memory of the things it used to hold. I could feel the faint texture of its worn edges as we walked. We didn't speak much. Evan's pace matched mine exactly. Not hurrying, not slowing. His hands were tucked into his jacket pockets, but I could see from the set of his shoulders that he understood what this moment meant. Near the park's recycling station, we stopped. The bin was painted green, its opening wide enough for a file folder. I looked down at the cardboard in my hands. For months, these papers had been a lifeline, a record, a shield, sometimes even a weapon. Now, without them, the air around me felt lighter. A gust of wind carried a few dry leaves from the river's edge, tumbling them across the path until one brushed the back of my hand. It startled me enough to notice the sound they made, crisp, small, and fleeting. I let my fingers open, sliding the folder into the bin. It landed with a soft, hollow sound. Evan gave a small nod. We turned back toward the water. The light was shifting now, thinning as the day moved on. The river caught that change, its surface holding a dim, silvery glow. Walking again, I thought about what it meant to reach an ending like this. There had been no fireworks, no dramatic confrontation to mark the final step. Just steady actions, one after another, until the line between before and after was clear enough to see without question. I realized then that the kind of justice we had found wasn't loud. It didn't demand a spotlight or a headline. It was the kind that restores, piece by piece, the space someone tried to take from you. Quiet justice, and in its own way it is stronger than anything shouted. We crossed under the small pedestrian bridge where the air felt cooler. I listened to the water moving over the rocks and the muffled rhythm of our steps. There was comfort in the ordinary sounds, in knowing that life had moved back to its natural pace. By the time we reached the parking lot, I could already imagine the warmth of home waiting. The kettle would still be holding its heat, just enough for tea. The framed photo on the shelf would still be standing straight, exactly where I had placed it. Evan opened the car door for me. As I settled into the seat, I caught his glance. Not searching, not asking, just checking that I was steady. I nodded once, and that was enough. Driving back, the city lights began to flicker on, reflecting faintly on the wet pavement. It felt right to let the quiet fill the car. My thoughts turned to the people who might be sitting right now in their own kitchens, worrying about something they can't quite name yet, feeling the edges of a problem, but not the shape. I wanted them to know that there are ways to keep themselves safe, that they can recognize the signs before the harm deepens. If this story has helped you see the patterns, the subtle shifts in trust, the unexpected interest in your accounts, the quiet pressure to share things that are yours, then I hope you'll stay with us. Follow this channel so we can keep telling these stories, not to frighten, but to protect. At the bottom of the video description, you'll find links to local legal aid resources. Use them if you need to. And if you ever suspect financial abuse within your family, start with 3 first steps. Document what you can, speak to someone you trust, and report it to the proper authorities, your local police, the FTC, or IC3. The names and places here have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved. But the risks are real, and so is the possibility of stopping them before they take root. As the car turned onto my street, I felt the small shift that comes when you know the hardest part is behind you. The porch light glowed warmly through the falling dusk. Evan pulled into the drive, and I could already picture the steam curling up from my mug. Inside, the house would be just as I had left it. The photo frame steady, the clock ticking, the kettle warm enough to pour without waiting. We stepped inside, the door closing against the cool evening. And I knew, with a clarity that settled deep, that quiet justice had done its work. Not just for me, but for those who might one day need it. It is the way we protect ourselves and the way we protect each other.